Shalom. Giving all praise to Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Yahweh Bashem Al Shai Barakatham to you, hopefully elect. This is going to be a bit of an open forum. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of news circulating. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start off with this to set the tone real quick. In Romans chapter 13, because as we know, or as we should know at least, the end game for the elites, the top wicked elites, is to have everyone C-hipped. And that's where all roads are leading to. Like I said, there's a lot of news circulating, a lot of things going on. More and more countries are, for one, wanting to, or at least in talks, which is going to happen because, again, it's all prophetic as far as these countries leaving and doing away with the American dollar. And more and more of these countries shifting to the CBDC system. All right. And not only that, more and more of these countries are leaning to Russia and China, and want to join the BRICS, right? Which is, again, even going to furthermore collapse the American dollar. All right. You just had this, I think it was the president of Kenya, if I'm not mistaken, basically encouraging his citizens to drop the dollar, because I think he mentioned how that the dollar in a few weeks, some weeks, is pretty much going to be worthless, and it's no coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. There is no such thing as coincidences with all these pilot programs for this digital currency, such as the Fed now, which they want to launch in a few months. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this real quick, because who's to say that, and I'm just putting this out there just through the spirit, man, because of course we have to wait and see how it plays out. But who's to say that? And it hit me because now they're talking about Panera coming out with these, you could pay with your palm, right? Now, with that being said, I mean, because in the name of convenience, as we've said a million and one times, Esau, one of the ways he's going to deceive a mass majority of the people as far as presenting this MOTB is going to be in the name of convenience. And as we've seen from cash switching to the credit cards, now the cards that got the C-hips on them, now everyone's with their Apple Pay and stuff like that, right? So who's to say? And again, I'm just putting this out there because it just had me thinking when it comes to the paying with your palm, which again they want to launch. They want to switch everything to this system, this digital system. And again, because there's no such thing as coincidences, right? No such thing as coincidences with the the debt limit uh, coming up in a few months. You know, um, because again, it's going to be a complete reset. You know, and as some have broken down, which it makes sense. You know, because there's only one of two options that can really take place as far as what's going to replace the dollar, and that could be in the form of gold and silver, which that's not going to happen because you have a lot of these experts and economists and people like that who believe that we're going to go back to a bartering system of gold and silver, which again, that's not going to happen. All right, but the other option being this digital system where again, it's going to be a complete reset. All right, because for one, America's too far in the hole as far as its debt to the elites. All right, they're too far gone, and they're not going to be able to repay that debt. So with that being said, and I've mentioned this before, how because this is what we see going on with a lot of these other countries. All right, with the collapse of their economies and them looking for these bailouts, right? Well, the ultimate form of bailing out, getting bailed out, is going to come in the form of that MOTB. That's going to be the new way of buying and selling, as the scriptures say, Revelation 13. All right. So with all that being said, and again, I'm just putting this out there. Who's to say that, hey, the CBDC, or whatever they want to call it, because Esau, he could package it up any type of way. That's why we just have to watch. All right. But who's to say that with the CBDC that they present, I mean, it could be that MOTB, because like I said, it had me just think with this palm scanning, right? And like I was saying, because, I mean, again, everything is going to be done in the name of convenience. So, it can go from wearable technology, which eventually is going to be technology, that is going to be implanted under the skin eventually. But who's to say, let's say they start coming out with these bracelets that, let's just say, just put this out there, the CBDC bracelets, right? And you can, all these stores have it to where you got the all you got to do is scan your wrist or whatever. All right. And from there, because like I just mentioned with the whole transition from cash to cards, from cards to the Apple Pays, right? You can go from that to, like I just said, with the bracelets, your CBDC bracelets or whatever, right? And it can go from there to the actual MOTB. But things are so fast tracked that at this point we really can't put anything past Esau Edom. So, I mean, like I said, when they come out with this new, when they come up with this new system, when they come up with these CBDCs, who's to say that Esau, won't just come out with the C-hip, right? And that's why I wanted to read this real quick in Romans 13 and 11. It says, "And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed." All right, because it seems like the Lord, and I was just meditating on this earlier, on how it seems like the Lord is dragging his feet. It's just because we want things to happen yesterday already. We want to be in the kingdom yesterday. So with that being said, we want these things to and when you're so locked in and just focused on news articles and watching clips and things of that nature, we can kind of forget that time. Things are moving rather quickly. Because we're closer than we think. We're a lot closer than what we think. All right. Here it is. You got all these different protests going on, like out there in France and in Israel, right? You know, which there's been protests going on for years now, but things are only you know, intensifying, and you know, it's getting worse. You know, well, worse for these people. You know, it's good news for us. You know, like a brother once said, you know, these people, their bad news is our good news, so it's good news for us. You know, um, but hey, like I said, who's to say that? Because again, they're doing these pilots and, you know, these test runs and whatnot. Who's to say that with this Fed now, and you know, with the CBDCs, who's to say that it can't be the C-hip? I mean, it could very well be the C-hip, in fact. Because again, we're closer than what we think. You know, we're closer than what we think. And with that being said, man, like I said, with these different protests going on, and you know, people tearing shit up, right? Well, because again, they got to collapse this old system in order to bring in this new system, right? So one thing is going to lead to another, and like I mentioned earlier, with all these countries, more and more they're moving away from the dollar, which is going to cause more inflation, which in turn is going to lead to hyperinflation. All right, and you know, the day is going to come when, you know, I forgot the term for it. I do believe I mentioned this in the video that I did last week about how something's going to happen to where, with these banks, to where people are going to try to, with the, you know, with the bank runs, you know, all these people, they're going to go rushing to the banks and the ATMs to get out all their money, not knowing and understanding fractional reserve. You know, so just because you put $100,000 in the bank, you know, the bank is only liable to, you know, give you up to 10% of that. So, and this is what causes, you know, these banks to collapse, because when, again, all these people try to run to their banks to get all this money out. Again, the bank, they don't hold all that cash on deck, man. Just because, like I said, it shows up on your computer screen, that doesn't mean that bank's actually, you know, possess all those digits. You know, so like I said, I forgot the term for it, but something's going to happen, and it's going to cause a panic, as we've seen with the Silicon Valley Bank and all these other banks that have been collapsing. Something's going to happen to where people, I think they're calling it a contagion, right? Where basically word gets out, and you know, people start to panic, and they try to rush to get all their money out these banks, and something's going to happen to where they're just going to shut the banks down. Again, I forgot the term for it, but they're just going to shut the banks down. You know, it's going to be like a credit lock or something like that, a credit freeze or something like that, to where, you know, you're not going to be able, you know, to access your bank account, ATMs, or anything like that. Well, because I've been saying this, I know other brothers have said it. It's because it's like, at this point, what is it going to take for these simple Americans to know that, you know, their so-called freedoms are being attacked, man? You know, because you see, this is why, for an example, going back to the protests in France, right? You know, because they have some type of sense. They're not as dumbed down and docile and simple as these Americans. So, you know, for the most part, those French over there, man, they, for the most part, can tell that their governments are up to no good. All right, because, you know, the whole thing with France, you know, them upping the retirement age, you know, and again, just to show you how simple these Americans are, because they did the same thing over here, or they were at least talking about it, raising the retirement age. I think it's up to 65 now, if I'm not mistaken. You know, I think it went from 62 to 65. I could be wrong, but, you know, somewhere along those numbers. Nevertheless, they were talking about a couple of months ago raising the retirement age out here in America. All right. Well, this is why they're protesting over there in France. So, you know, again, these Americans, they're stupid. You know, they're hella dumb. right? So as I always say, what's it going to take for these Americans to know that? Well, what's it going to take for them to realize that, you know, their governments, their politicians, all right, the people that these people that are set up to look after the common folk are up to no good. What is it going to take for these, you know, these docile Americans to get that? Well, it could very well come in the form of, like I said, when something happens and people can't access their money, all right, that could very well be the straw to break the camel's back. All right, because Esau, he's looking for, you know, he's looking for the excuse. He's trying to create the problem so that he can get the people to react a certain way, so that it calls for, you know, them justifying themselves and bringing in the order. All right, you know, their martial law, shutting things down, shutting things back down, man. You know, because hey, I believe that the Apostle Tahar touched on it somehow. Hey, within the next few weeks, man, you know, hey, because at this point, anything can happen. You know, at this point, anything can happen. All right, because America's economy is so fragile, it's so weak. You know, as I always say, we're one not so major event away from just all hell breaking loose. So, you know, I mean, anything can happen at this point. All right, like I said, you know, I believe that debt ceiling limit is supposed to be, you know, with the debt ceiling, it's supposed to come to an end. I think they said in June. You know, and come July they want to come out with this FET now, and like I said, you know, all things are leading up. You know, like I said before, there's no coincidences. There's no such thing as coincidences. Esau, he knows what he's doing. All right, you know, but I'm gonna get this a second address because, again, because we are going to have more of these banks collapsing. All right, we are going to see more banks collapse. And with that being said, it's not going to be that's not going to be the end of it, because again, you know, and this is what, because I watched a lot of these guys, like what's this guy's name? Jeremiah Babe, you know, and a few other guys, and for the most part, they were on point as far as people not being able to access their money. And, you know, because like I said, something's going to happen. And I mean, again, we can't put nothing past Esau at this point. You know, we can't put anything past Esau at this point, because we could wake up tomorrow. You know, we could wake up tomorrow and, you know, and we could be in a new system. You know, things could be transferred over to this new system. You know, and you know, might get the mass text alert you know, everyone in, you know, these specific areas. If you're in such and such area or such county or whatever, go to your nearest Walmart or whatever, right? You know, and I'll just put this out there as a little side note. There's no coincidence they're shutting down on these Walmarts. You know, Lord willing, I have I think it's about a 10-minute clip that I want to upload. Because again, well, not to veer off topic too much, but again, it's no coincidence they're shutting down all these Walmarts, and you know, all these business plazas are you know, getting closed down. All right, because you know, they're setting them up for these stations, these CHIPPING stations. All right, you know, these camps and whatnot. You see, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this real quick in second Edges 15 and starting at 15. Because again, this could very well be the straw to break this camel's back, man. As I've been said before, you know, because it's just like, what is it going to take for these Americans to wake to understand that their so-called freedoms, their so-called rights are being attacked? Because if these Americans had any sense, this place would have been in an uproar. All right, they would have been tearing shit up out here. You know, they would have went after these, you know, especially especially these dudes, man, on these child supports. They would have been went up to these, child support offices and whatnot. But it's coming. It's coming, nevertheless. I'm going to read this in 2 Edges 15 and 15. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Because eventually the people are going to get backed into a corner to a point where they're just going to take matters into their own hands. All right, eventually they are going to wake up to the fact that, these people, these politicians, these governors, these people that are supposed to be looking after the common folk are full of shit, right? And soon, we're going to hear about these guys like DeSantis, all right, because he's controlled opposition, right? DeSantis and all these, public figures or whatnot getting kidnapped and held for ransom and stuff like that, man, getting assassinated. That's why when you read on, it says, For there shall be sedition among men, all right? And, like with this guy Trump, man, he's calling for people to, quote-unquote, take America back, right? He's calling for violence and destruction, all right? He's calling for people to protest, because they're looking for a reason to bring in the order, man. So they're poking. They're poking at they're poking at these these elites. They're poking at the civilians, man. And these civilians, like I said, they're too dumb to even know to know it, right? Because again, Trump, he's another controlled opposition. So they're all juiced in some way, all right. But they're basically using him to try to start a civil war. But again, it says, for there shall be sedition among men, and in invading one another, right? Because hey, hell, you had these and this is no secret for the most part, to those of us that are seasoned. Like you have a lot of these Moabites over here setting up shop over here in America, right? They just caught a whole string of them. I think it was out there in Texas, right? Because America's under siege, man. And hey, as I've said before, man, as the scriptures say, as far as America being a virgin daughter of Babylon, well, hey, America's about to get her cherry popped. She's about to lose her virginity because eventually America's going to get sieged. America's going to get invaded, by foreign troops. It's going to be fighting from within, like I said, civil unrest, right? That's what this is going into again. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So eventually people are going to take matters into their own hand, all right? And it is going to, well, yeah, when you read on, it says, and a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? Because it's going to be martial law. Everything's going to be shut down, Traffic is going to be controlled, man. It's going to be to a minimum. Checkpoints, military checkpoints, checking IDs. Well, hey, because again, going back to the prophecy, man, in Revelation 13, 16, and 17, you won't be able to partake in society if you don't have that MO2B, right? You won't be able to buy and sell. You won't be able to move around freely, right? If you haven't already, I encourage you to watch that movie Songbird that came out, I think it was back in 2021, man. Watch that movie Songbird. I might have to watch that again, But it says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but they shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Because like I was saying, going back to these whole, when people can't access their money and, and like I was saying with these guys that I watch, for the most part, they were on point, because with the more and more these banks collapses, right, the more and more these countries move away from the dollar, the more and more, these countries move away from the dollar, all right, the more and more that we see inflation, which is going to soon lead to hyperinflation, all right. And like I said, a lot of these guys that were on point as far as how, hey, eventually people are going to start turning on one another. It's going to be neighbor against neighbor. Like I said, there's going to be fighting from within. It's going to be a dog-eat-dog world, man. It's going to be every man for himself. I see a lot of, when I'm out and about and I do orders and stuff, man, sometimes, because, Jake by nature, they got that compassion, They're compassionate. We're compassionate people, because sometimes I'm just, when I'm doing orders, man, and You know, I go to a little old lady's house and, you know, deliver her groceries and whatnot, right? She'll ask me to come in and, you know, set the groceries on the table and whatnot. And I'm just like, man, if I was a 2/3, I would, so because a lot of these people, especially the old man, they're the elderly, they're just sitting ducks, man. And it's like, damn, you know, because I could just easily overtake the, you know, if I wanted to, I could just easily overtake shit, man. You know, but hey, the time's gonna come when, hey, people, man, these people, they're gonna become more and more ruthless, man. They're gonna become ruthless, you know. It's gonna be a survival of the fittest out here, man. We're about to go back to a primitive way of living, you know. And hey, a lot of you women, you're gonna revert back to being you're gonna revert back to being a possession, as the scriptures tell us. A woman, he that getteth a wife getteth a possession, you know. So a lot of you women, you're gonna soon find out that this feminism nonsense is gonna be of no prevail, man. You know, a lot of you women are gonna get humbled. All right, you're gonna know your place. You're gonna learn your place, right? You're definitely gonna fall in order, because that's what all this is gonna lead to. It's gonna lead to order, man. And I always use the example of what happened in Afghanistan. All right, when America pulled out of Afghanistan, hey, them Talibanis, man, they took shit back over, man. You know, they took back over, and they took over, and they reestablished order. You know, they made a lot of women quit their jobs, and you know, they reestablished order. All right, and not so pleasantly. Well, hey, that's coming back over here times 10, times 100. All right, so get ready, man, because hey, one thing is going to lead to another, and hey, again, hey, our salvation is closer than we think, man. It is nearer than what we think, because again, like I said, we get so caught up sometimes in just you know, watching, you know, news articles and things of that nature, and it's easy to forget that because you're keeping up with everything that's going on, it might seem like the Lord is dragging his feet, right? And it just seems like things are going by slow, but things are really you know, happening quick. All right. But when that MOTB is mandated, hey, things are really going to speed up. Things are going to go by even quicker than what it already is. You know? So, hey, that's what we got to look forward to, man. Hey, Lord willing, the hopeful year that you know, these prophecies come to pass, man. All right. You know, this American dollars is on its way out. All right. You know, we're you know, we're and I mentioned this before as well. Because, hey, more and more bailouts because of these banks collapsing, and, you know, there's going to continue to print money out of thin air. It's going to cause, we're looking at a whole new wave of inflation, all right? Which, again, is going to lead to hyperinflation. And it's going to, Lord willing, you know, it's going to cause people to snap, because, hey, things are already expensive as it is now, man. You know, milk, milk, damn nearly $5, man. You know, it costs more than a gallon of gas. Like, what the hell is this? And that was another thing. They were talking about gas going back up, right? And we're, you know, hey, our salvation is nearer than what we think, man. Hey, Lord willing, this was edifying. All praise to Yahweh Shema Shai. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Yahweh Shema Shai, Baruch Adab to you, hopefully elect. Shalom.